What up with you, man? I pray that y'all good out here, yo. Today's topic is pretty much empaths and healers. Now, I can only pretty much speak for myself on the things I've experienced. And the thing is that the more the things that I have experienced and resonated with me, the more people I started to connect to that pretty much went through the same shit. So in regards with empaths and healers, man, excuse me, we're very sensitive people, sensitive to our surroundings. You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by we gone through a lot of hard shit in our life, in our lifetime, in this body, is that our childhood wasn't, good at all. For some people, that parts of it was. I could definitely be confident enough to say that, including myself. But there's other parts of it that really, didn't go so well. Because the more and more people that I spoke to, man, and they tell me, very personal shit about their childhood, man. We started to, really connect, and I could understand why they went through they gone through so much shit in their adulthood. It's because of the amount of pain that they went through in their childhood. Because I said it before, you know, just because two parents are around doesn't mean that they're healthy minded. I'm telling you right now, there's gonna be people that are, on my social media, platforms that don't agree that are parents, and that's fine. You don't have to. You know what I'm saying? But people, I would think that, certain people tend to forget that your children are often a reflection of the fucking environment that they were raised in. You know what I mean? So if your child or children are constantly being raised around drugs or alcohol or constant mental and physical abuse, what the fuck you think is going to happen to them when they become an adult? You know what I mean? So because of we're I would think that we're very sensitive people. We are often, you know, sponges. We absorb energy. You know what I'm saying? Hence the reason why when we go into um, social settings, and we, make no mistake, we love, talking to people and everything. But because of all the energies from all over the place, man, we have to learn how to regulate that shit. And then so with that in mind, when we regulate it, we go into hermit mode. And in hermit mode, I would think that we often, go through reflection. You know what I'm saying? Um, and it's both, good and bad. I would think that when it comes to, my life, is I've always been kind of neutral when it comes to topics or certain topics. It's no different from me when it comes to sports. I really don't have, a favorite team like that, like speaking of it. I have many teams that I like, but I don't have any favorites. And, I just want to see a good game. You know what I'm saying? But because of our childhood, you know, and we have gone through so much of that shit. And speaking on the bad parts of it, man, it 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 shapes our adulthood. You know what I'm saying? So I said it moments ago that when you are seeing your your parents fighting or your grandparents fighting or whatever in front of you constantly every fucking week, man, chances are you're going to be into a relationship that either become the victim or the subject or possibly both. You know what I'm saying? By means, my intention is not to instill fear onto people. It's just the patterns, that I have experienced in my life. This is what I have seen, and you know what I'm saying, including myself. And anybody who's close to me know that I'm no saint. I'm not. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I could speak like this is because of I use that pain into power in a way. You know what I mean? To inform other people. To turn it into something that's positive. You know what I'm saying? And by, positive from what I've experienced, man. When I have conversations on the people, I make sure always to be compassionate, to be passionate, to be sensitive, to be genuine, to be kind. Because these are the things that I give to myself. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm pretty sure that there's people out there, including yourself, that you've heard the type of life that they had or that they're living. And all they want is just a fucking hug. Or they just want someone to listen to them genuinely, with no judgment. You feel me? And when I mean by listen, you don't react in a way in a judgment. It's more so of a curiosity, where you're asking questions from a curious and genuine place. You know what I'm saying? Because the last thing that you know I would want is to have a conversation with somebody and they're thinking that you know, I'm judging them. From a standpoint, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that shit. If I'm curious for what people are going through. I ask questions because immediately I start to come to either I know exactly where the hell their issues are coming from, or I can easily come up with the solutions very fucking quickly. You know what I mean? So because of the amount of shit that empaths and healers, and not even just that, or people go through that is extremely rough, they learn not to trust people, and that's including their own goddamn family. The ones that they feel as if they could vent to and speak to, they're receiving judgment, or they don't have no say, or possibly all of that shit. So they learn how to not to trust anybody but themselves, and sometimes they may not even trust themselves. But when they actually put in the work to heal, and to make sure that they are always given that unconditional love that they probably never had in their life. You know, being genuine and kind, always to themselves. When they put in the work within themselves, they really start to understand why the world is the way it is, or why so many people are fucked up. And including the ones that say, "Oh, you know, I'm fine mentally and all that," and it's like, yo, I can feel everything that you are saying, and you don't even believe that shit. It's a front. It's an illusion because of the environment that you've been in in your entire life. And this is so when I have conversations with people, yo, and there's been times that they have broken down and cried. I always make it a point, and I tell them like, yo, you have, I would like for, I tell them like, yo, I would like for you to understand that this is the shit that you experienced from a childhood. You don't know any better. It is not your fucking job to heal as a fucking child. It's not your damn job. But you know what's the flip side and what's the messed up part? It is absolutely your job to heal when you become an adult. You know what I'm saying? So I always make it a point for them to be to give them grace for what they go through and what they have gone through. And I was also telling them like, yo, you met me for a reason. This is me telling you like, yo, you did everything to the best of your ability, regardless, even if it's bad. That's a learned behavior that you know that you learn from your parents or your childhood or your environment. Give yourself grace. Give yourself that unconditional love. Don't be, take it so hard amongst yourself. You know what I'm saying? So everything that I'm telling you, to you folks, man, I have gone through. So going back to being cautious of, trusting people. The reason why I'm often cautious of trusting people is because of what I've seen, what I've experienced. You know what I'm saying? And unless you are genuine and you're kind and even with this slight with a little bit of being a warrior within when it's called for, yo, of being compassionate and being passionate and all that, man, all of the good things. If you're none of that, stay the fuck away from me, yo. Because if not, you know what I mean, I'm going to call your shit out, because we've also experienced constantly that, beliefs and traditions are constantly being forced, upon us, even till this day. But the difference is that I'm more than aware of what is it that they are doing. Even something as simple as get into a conversation with people um, about who's the greatest between Kobe, Michael Jordan, or Hakeem Olajuwon, or LeBron James. And I tell them I always go with Jordan. I love Kobe Bryant as well. You know what I'm saying? And when I say Michael Jordan, certain people often get in their fucking feelings, ready to fight. All because I don't agree with, LeBron James or Kobe or whoever it is. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yo, and I tell him it was this one individual. Yeah, I'm like, yo, I didn't say LeBron James is a terrible fucking athlete. He's been in the league for over 20 fucking years. I never said that. Now, I wasn't going to say that. But before, I could, even speak, they constantly kept cutting me off, which is another thing that, and, a lot of empaths and healers often learn how to maintain boundaries and respect within themselves. If you constantly gotta interrupt someone while they're fucking speaking, that shows a negative ass fucking trait to yourself, not me. It really shows that you're a truly ugly fucking individual. You know what I'm saying? It is not a reflection of me at all, or that other person. It's a reflection of that particular individual. All because something as simple as you don't agree with who's the greatest. You know? So, because of everything that I would think that a lot of healers and empaths have experienced, in their life, like speaking of it, they learn to also say that, hey, this supposedly quote unquote tradition that was normal isn't fucking healthy at all. Not for me. And if it means me doing this shit by my goddamn self, then absolutely I will fucking do that shit to the 105th goddamn power. And when I do make it, no one can tell me shit. I'm telling you right now, that's exactly what, you know, I would think that they would, what they say amongst themselves, and that's including me, because I don't give a flying fuck, yo. You know, I'm not talking about, the people who are compassionate and genuine. No, I'm not talking about them. No, I'm just talking about the people who just constantly refuse to fucking listen, who are just constantly projecting the most negative shit, trying to force you their way, your way into thinking about what they say is right. Nah, my guy, that shit don't work over here. You know, so if I lost my train of thought, amongst everything that they have experienced in their life, and knowing that this flawed system ain't working, or the quote unquote tradition isn't working, they learn how to change that system. They learn how to change the fucking village. Because, again, they given that unconditional love, the genuine, and everything that's good for themselves. They start to experience it through other people. And what happens is that more and more people who think like them and act like them and have a spirit like them, more and more people starts to come around them. Or I've experienced more and more people that was like that, vice versa. Either way, man, it's a good thing. It's a beautiful fucking thing, man. You know what I'm saying? It's a tough world out here, yo. And when certain conversations, come up about men and women, I absolutely, have no problem facing it at all. I don't, I do not validate, people's emotions and feelings at all. Not at that, at all. It's absolutely valid. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to the point where you gotta judge an entire damn fucking gender based on what you have experienced in your life, and you're trying to force that shit upon me, that's when I'm gonna put the fucking brakes on you. And I've lost quite a few people who I don't even talk to anymore like that, like speaking of me. And that's completely fine. But if I fucking warned you to respect the boundaries and don't disrespect, disrespect me, and you refuse to do it, what do you think was gonna happen? because I would think it's the same as vice versa. You know what I mean? And the crazy thing is, how is it that you can judge an entire fucking gender based on the things that you have, that they have had, experienced? And to a certain degree, I absolutely agree with it, because there is some, some certain people that are fucked up out here that are both men and women. Yeah, I could definitely acknowledge that. I absolutely agree with that part. But to say that it's an entire gender, nah. You know what I mean? So in regards to, empaths, and healers, we learn to establish so many good things among ourselves. But we have to go through that pain to establish, a different system within ourselves, a different way of thinking, different way of, behaving, of just being and authentically being yourself or themselves. But that's just, my take on it, man. I'm pretty sure I may have missed a few things, but I can't think of anything else to say in regards to all that right now, yo. But y'all be safe out here, man. And like I always tell people, if you clearly don't want a certain negative behavior for yourself, why would you inflict that behavior onto other people? Because what's going to happen is that someone is going to reflect that shit right back to you. Could be family, friends, your wife or husband, and guess what? You are not going to fucking like it. And eventually what's going to happen is that you're going to really grow old and really by your fucking self. And as human beings, we're not meant to do that. We're not meant to be by ourselves. And I'm always believe that, you know what I mean? But on that part, I think that's the other reason why people end up growing old by themselves. There's, quite a few reasons why that happens. All I'm saying is that I just would like to see more and more people be mindful of their own actions and their words and their thoughts. And more people are doing just that, and I'm happy to see that shit. You know what I mean? But y'all, like I said, man, y'all take care, man. One love to you, man.